I'll tell you something funny. I don't think I've ever told anyone this because it's just kind of one of these anecdotes. But in January of 2020, even though they shut down my YouTube channel again, like December of 2019, which happened to a lot. There was a huge, I don't know if you remember that, there was a huge purge, I think they called it, where like lots of people's YouTube channels just got shut down by YouTube. And that's kind of back when everyone was on YouTube still. And, but I was kind of getting burned out, or I was, I had a job and stuff. So I just took that time to focus on my life again, after kind of being obsessed with making videos and all this stuff for 5 years. In January of 2020, I had this moment where I thought to myself, besides the YouTube channel stuff, where I just thought, life is pretty good. Just personally, I had my job. Everything was kind of like a job I really liked. And everything was like going pretty good. And I almost like for the first time in my life, I felt like things were going pretty well. This is January 2020. And then, of course, we know what happened in February and March. And of course, I knew exactly what was going on, But so, yeah, for me, 2019, 2020 were pretty good for me personally. I would definitely go back there. But in the sense that reliving it all again, I wouldn't want to live through that. That was really one of the worst periods of my life, actually.
It was one of the worst periods of many people's lives, I think.
Yeah, I mean, where it's illegal to go to work, that's insane. You might as well just shoot people, just kill them. But then, I lost my job and because I didn't inject the magic potion. You know what I mean? So, it was just a total nightmare. The people I worked with suddenly became like evil is the word I would use. I guess they were just afraid and brainwashed and all that stuff. And theoretically I should have some compassion on them, but still working on that.
No, that's a good point, because I was super angry in the first few years of the COVID event.
Me too, yeah.
I was like ultra angry, and everybody was an idiot around me who was getting injected and so on. And I'm finding myself, obviously, the further away we are from it now, I'm not as angry anymore. But I still see a lot of them as just utter imbeciles, and I can't quite get myself I can't get myself away from that from that judgment.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Why do you think just hold on, let's just quickly talk about this. Why do you think some of us saw through it and so many didn't?
Well, I know for myself, because I was already a quote unquote conspiracy theorist, whatever word you want to use, you know what I mean? No, I seriously, with the first news I saw on some kind of virus or something, I was like, they're gonna shut down the world and force people to take an injection. And this is before they even started talking and using the V word and all this, you know what I mean? It's like, I just saw it clearly on day one. I even made videos about it, and then they shut me down again because I actually started a whole new channel again just because of, the fake pandemic situation. Because I wasn't even gonna start. I was gonna take a longer break from making videos, and then I was like, oh, do I have to this is like, it was so obvious to me. So I can't speak for anyone else really, but it was just why, I suppose, because I was already Mr. E. I was already, in 9/11, right? 9/11. So probably if you kind of knew about 9/11 by that point, which a lot of people did, I suspect, but some people still don't. So I knew about that. And so I knew about a lot of stuff by 2020 that it was almost like I thought something like that would happen anyway at some point. I didn't think it would happen then at that moment, but when it started, I recognized what it was, and I recognized it as a fake pandemic. When everyone's dying is like 80 years old, you're like, well, it's just so obvious. I think because people don't realize what the news is lying to us all the time. That maybe that's all it is. It's like people think the news is reporting reality. And once you realize the news is lying to you and just giving you narratives, then that's really the only, if you just have that one bit of information, that makes a huge difference, I think. You know, which I already had that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So like the 9/11 thing, which you mentioned, it didn't get me. I thought the official story was the real story for the longest time, actually. I
did for a long time. For about 5 years, I did as well. Yeah.
Oh, no. I think I was but in the 20-teens, only rethinking that. I think what started me kind of questioning established arguments, I think, was around 2009-ish. There was a documentary that came out called The Great Global Warming Swindle. And then I thought, hold on a second, humans are not causing temperature change. And then after that, bit by bit, I started, questioning large events. And eventually I realized, no, 9/11's got to be a cover-up of some sort. And then after that, the domino falls.
Yeah. It is kind of an almost endless rabbit hole of things to look at. It gets a bit overwhelming at times. But
one of the rabbit holes that I have kind of been trying to avoid because it's just too difficult to wrap my head around is who is a guy and who's a girl.
Well, that's pretty simple. It's really simple. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of what you think. What it appears to be. That's all. It's very simple.
When people started showing pictures of Big Mike, I thought, no, this can't be. And then I saw Big Mac. You know who Big Mac is? Macron's wife.
Husband. They call him Big Mac. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, that's obvious. Yeah, I mean that's you just got to look. You just got to look at them. And
well, this is the thing, though. Okay, so what is the term? Transvestigation? Is that the term? EGI?
I didn't come up with that. I didn't come up with those terms. I don't know what people call it. I don't really call it anything, really. It's just observing and, analysis. It's a forensic, I think they call it forensic analysis of bone structure. That's really, it is a science, like if you saw two skeletons in a forest or something with no skin, you could identify the man and the woman by looking at bone structure. So it's forensic anthropology is actually what they call it. And the trick is to do it, when people are still alive and they're wearing makeup and clothes and hair. But, a lot of it's just common sense as well, because like Big Mike is like 6 feet tall. You know what I mean? Which doesn't prove, I've met 2 6 feet tall women in my entire life, so they do exist, but they're pretty rare. But there's been a lot of 6 foot tall first ladies. I refer to it as the shoulders, which is the same thing as the upper back. It's the broad shoulders. And now the face is fairly feminized. So sometimes just looking at the face alone, sometimes the face alone will give it away, but sometimes it doesn't. But because that's part of the skull and all that. But I call it now. I've called it different names over the years, but now I call it ritual androgyny. And so I believe it's kind of their religion, to put it real simply. It's their religion, So, and the Freemasons write about androgyny a lot. And what they're doing is balancing. I think the way they perceive the world is that there's a male energy and there's a female energy, and they're balancing the polar opposites, as they say in their literature. And, if you picked up any book any book written by a Freemason, let's put it that way, and a lot of them are available online for free in like PDFs or something, but they will eventually start talking about how God is androgynous and how Adam was androgynous. The first human being was androgynous, was like both male and female. And then And this is also what this is in Judaism. Judaism believes this. It's in the Kabbalah and a lot of the Zohar, a lot of the Jewish ancient writings, and it's in things like Blavatsky, a lot of the occult, Crowley, these kind of guys. It's a kind of an occult ritual, and it's been around thousands of years, actually. So I suspect that the people practicing it today are part of this ancient religion, ancient paganism, and it's kind of a ritual to cleanse themselves and to unite themselves with the god or the goddess, especially a goddess. So it's an ancient religion that is documented very well, actually, in the ancient literature, like literature like from thousands of years ago in ancient languages actually talk about transvestite priests and prophets and singers and dancers and entertainers. And today we have in political leaders, people working for the king and queens. So it's the same thing happening today, where the singers and dancers and entertainers and political leaders are transvestites, just like it was thousands of years ago. It's documented in the Bible as well, both Old and New Testament, and it's documented in ancient Greek literature and ancient literature in languages people haven't even heard of. So around the world, which is it's information that I found, but it's just not very well known. So nobody knows about it. Yeah.
So what you're talking about is just dressing up like the other gender, the other sex, and also that whole thing is that gender sex difference thing has really created so many unnecessary debates, because it's the same thing.
Over the last 10 years, yeah. So they had the, recently, or 10 years ago, they had the Bruce Jenner. Remember that? The Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner. That's when I started to notice this, because I recognize that as propaganda, like transvestite propaganda. For like a year, 1 year of transvestite propaganda regarding Bruce Jenner in the media. And I was like, why are they doing this? This is kind of weird, So I kind of paid attention to it. And that was right before that, Obama legalized gay marriage. So I kind of saw it as a progression of some agenda. And then I started noticing, the actresses were not actually women. They were men. And then they were pretending to be pregnant and stuff like that. And that was really my eureka moment, was like, there was like an actress who's obviously just a dude in drag, and they're saying this person is pregnant again. And then I was like, oh, wow, they're like lying about this. There's women in the media who are actually men. And then that's kind of, I started making videos then, and I was like, how far does this go? How many of them are there? And I didn't think there would be, I thought maybe there'd just be like 10% of them or something, but it's more like the opposite, where like it's the vast majority of them are inverted.
Hollywood, eh?
Yeah, Hollywood, yeah. But men always played women's roles in ancient Greek theater and in Shakespeare's day, and even today in Japan in the No theater. So men have always played women's roles in theater, and Hollywood is basically just theater and film. So you do have that precedent of, for them maybe it's.
No, sorry, I interrupted you, but I'm going to say there have been obvious differences. I mean, like when Bugs Bunny would dress up as a woman, it was clearly for the sake of entertainment, and it was very obvious that he was dressing up and it was funny. Monty Python did the same sort of thing. It was for the sake of humor. But when it's confusing, like what you're talking about, I mean, isn't that different?
Yeah. Well, even like Monty Python is doing that stuff. That's a Masonic ritual that's disguised as comedy. But for them, it's very serious, actually. You have like, most Hollywood actors most Hollywood actresses are men. They're, male to female. People call them transgender. I just call them all transvestites because that means just changing the appearance. And yeah, they do surgery and all that stuff as well. But they're transvestites, and yeah. So it's for them. I think they're raised this way. They're in the female costume all day long. I would assume, unless they take some time off, but behind the scenes. But basically, what happens, like a Jewish kid is circumcised on the 8th day, and then these kids, like someone like Taylor Swift, I don't know if you want me to mention names or not. They sometimes don't get, they probably don't appreciate it, but someone like Taylor Swift, for example, probably the most famous singer in the world these days, singer, quote unquote, not a very good singer in my opinion, but some of them are, but not Taylor Swift, but 5'11", and just a major superstar. The parents gave Taylor Swift an androgynous name, which is a quote from Taylor Swift, said that. And so Taylor Swift was born a boy, but raised as a girl from day one. Dressed up as a little girl, 3 years old. Taylor is a boy, but Taylor's dressed up like a girl. 3 years old, 4, 5, whatever. So everyone around Taylor thought it was a girl. Goes to school, everyone thinks it's a girl. 5'11", pretty tall, is now engaged to a guy who's like 6'5" or something. So it looks kind of normal when you see the two together, right? Taylor Swift has to date a really tall guy. Otherwise, see, nobody knows Taylor Swift is 5'11", even though he said it openly, but nobody thinks about it. And that's basically 6 feet. Melania Trump is 6 feet tall. Everyone likes to talk about Big Mike, but they don't like to talk about Melania Trump. See, that's where things get a little bit uncomfortable.
Yes, because you don't want to go into the Trump territory.
Or anyone.
He's a populist and everybody likes him.
Yeah, there you go. Populist. Populist. That's a good term for him. Yeah. So, but regardless of that, I think possibly a few exceptions, but basically all the first ladies have been transvestites in American history in the White House and before
Hillary
they had
too.
a White House. Well, Hillary's tough to call. I go back and forth on Hillary, so I try to be conservative. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, I just want to look at the evidence, you know what I mean? So if they throw a real woman in there, maybe they do. I don't know why, but it breaks the pattern a bit. But that's, so this part of Freemasonry is this focus on androgyny. And there, we already know a lot of most of the presidents have been Freemasons. And, you find it in royal families, around the world, England, Spain, all over the world. Prime ministers, wives of famous actors. You look at a rock star, usually their wives are taller than they are, which is pretty unusual. It happens in real life, but it's pretty rare. You know what I mean? And it's not just the height. You look at the entire bone structure, but it's pretty much across the board. So it almost seems like that's the price you got to pay, either to get into their club, or maybe they're just born in the club from the beginning anyway, that these positions are given to people. I think it's their attempt to become a god. It's like a transhumanism kind of thing. It's just like, it's a religious ritual. Why do people get circumcised? Why do people get baptized? Why do people go to the temple and offer and burn incense in front of a statue of Buddha? Why do people do anything like that? And I think it's their religious attempt to transcend the fallen state of man, or the limitations of being mortal. Because keep in mind, I've read a lot of like ancient literature about this stuff, so I tend to think about it in that context. And then these days, there's a different context of, high school transvestites going in the girls' bathroom, and there's a lot of like drama in the media about it, which is it does almost seem like they want to turn human beings into androgyne. Androgyne is the ancient Greek word for it. So there could be, and there are references to this in the literature, that the goal, because of Adam was androgynous, if the first human being was androgynous, and also kind of a divine being as well, then if androgyny is what makes people divine, then they want to change humanity back into the original Adam, which is called Adam Kadmon. So I mean, that's what they're thinking. You know what I mean? Like I think from their perspective, there's a method to their madness. It's transhumanism, yeah. So even though it's kind of insane and weird and strange if you think about it, and kind of it's just one of those things. Like it's almost like we've been colonized by a bunch of transvestites because they seem to be in charge. You know what I mean? When they're in the White House and the billionaires' wives and the billionaires, and a lot of the men could be FTMs as well, which is female to male. A little bit harder to prove, I find, and maybe more room for error, but that's certainly possible that there's a lot of men, people who appear to be men, who are actually women who inject testosterone, and some of them end up with really huge muscles because what they do is inject testosterone. They're women and they inject testosterone like on a regular basis, and then they go to the gym and lift weights. So they get these huge muscles. So you see people like, I would say like Eminem would be a good example. A super famous person who shouldn't really be muscular because he's just a rapper, singer, but he's quite
Eminem's
jacked.
A she.
I think so, yeah. Just an example. Just kind of a strange looking. What happens to an FTM is they go through male puberty just by injecting testosterone in their body at any age. So their voice gets deeper. They can grow a beard. It's pretty crazy. So they're a little bit more passable. They can kind of fit in and look like a regular guy, whereas the male to females usually there's something that kind of gives it away usually, because they're dealing with a larger bone structure that they try to conceal with clothing and the way they pose. Like most of the famous supermodels, I'd say probably all of them are transvestites. Sports Illustrated, Victoria's Secret, whatever. And because, they're really tall and they're slender, low body fat with broad shoulders. And, masculine bone structure. But they wear all this, the makeup and the hair and the clothes and the fake boobs. So we don't really look closely, Yeah, so I was pretty surprised at the extent of this phenomenon, especially at first. I guess I'm kind of used to it now. But it is I do realize how strange it is and kind of creepy and disturbing. And it doesn't seem, I don't know how many people know about it now. Or what we should do about it, but it's certainly way more prevalent than like someone like Candace Owens is talking about Macron's so-called wife, what a creature, and but that's like that could be. I don't know if you've talked to Candace Owens or not, or know that. But I would say Candace Owens probably another one of them, actually, and this is kind of some kind of controlled opposition attempt to channel the narrative into one person. Like Candace Owens looks like a Filipino transvestite, in my opinion. So it's not just Macron's wife, you know what I mean? Like it's so much bigger than just that. And Candace Owens's approach is different than mine, where Candace found a bunch of photos of Macron's wife before the transition, which is pretty rare, and that's not even my methodology anyway. I just look at them I look at photos, but they're always dressed up like women, the whole time. Usually they transition when they're a little baby or something. So usually there are no photos of them when they used to be a boy. But see, that's what Candace is doing, is saying, Candace said, we have to look at photos of them when they're young, when they still looked like boys. And that's how we discover who they are, which is false, because they're always dressed like women, from their childhood. So I think Candace is kind of trying to throw us off a bit. So controlled opposition.
Okay. So chat to me a bit more about the controlled opposition aspect. What is the point?
That's just one example, because usually this topic doesn't get much attention at all. You know what I mean? So the Candace Owens phenomenon is kind of well known now. We're talking about Macron's wife, or Bridget Macron, and so that's kind of an anomaly where usually it doesn't get that much attention. You know what I mean? Although Joan Rivers talked about Obama's wife, a long time ago. Yeah, so that's probably how that
she died
started.
Shortly after.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah. So who knows? I mean, for them, maybe they don't even care, at this point. But it does seem like they don't want us to know about it. But at the same time, we're being bombarded with propaganda to tell us to accept it, right? So for them, they're probably scared. And maybe they're scared of a bunch of peasants with pitchforks storming the castle, It's their secret. It's their great secret. It unites them together. And it's their way of life. And maybe there's a bloodline aspect. It gets deep into eugenics and depopulation. If they want the general public to be a bunch of gender bending, transvestites or whatever, that's essentially sterilizing people, right? You increase homosexuality, increase the transvestites, they're generally not going to reproduce. So there's kind of a depopulation agenda baked into it. So there's a lot of different, and it gets into bioengineering, and, a lot of them have IVF babies. And in fact, you do kind of wonder where do their babies come from, because it's like, if the wife is actually a man, where did their children come from? A lot of them are adopted, and a lot of them are, the official story is that, like, look at Angelina Jolie, most of those kids are adopted, or Sandra Bullock, or who's that other one? I kind of yeah, there you go, Charlize Theron with the little black transvestite, and their kids are all inverted now too, like kind of open, like a lot of it's coming out in the open. Miley Cyrus openly admits to being a tranny, like half the time.
Elon Musk's child also.
Yeah, it's all over. It's their religion. It'd be like, why are all these Jewish people circumcised? It'd be like asking that question. Why are these Christian kids getting baptized? Well, it's their religion. That's why. And I'm not saying that to accept it or anything. I'm just saying that's from their perspective. They're like, oh yeah, of course, this is what we do. We are the immortals. We are the divine beings. They're the angels. That's what they think they're better than us. They think they're better than us.
But you generally see this in the elite circles like Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Political spheres. And of course, you don't only see it in the West. I mean, Thailand is known for it.
But it's not so much in the elite, though. Thailand has the hookers, their prostitutes. Yeah, and it's helpful, because I'll see them if I go to the city. You see them walking around and stuff. And that's, it's good. Yeah, yeah. So I think that helped me identify them, actually. Because it's like I had to learn how to identify them a long time ago, actually. You have to, and it was like, because at first when you encounter it, you're like, it's a little disturbing because they don't really, like in my hometown where I'm from, they don't really, I never saw these kind of people before. I didn't know they existed. You know what I mean? I thought women were women. If someone looked like a woman, it's a woman. That I didn't realize you could change the appearance like that. So you have to learn how to identify them when you're living in a place that has a lot of them. Especially when, when I was single,
Someone might say, Mr. E, though, that you just get more women with more testosterone in them from birth.
You mean that some of them are actually biological females that have more testosterone?
Yeah, that's what someone might say, yes.
Well, that's no one wants to admit their favorite actor or singer is a transvestite.
No, but I mean, like, for example, at school, at school that you might have had those boys who are more feminine and those girls who are more butch.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not so much even the mannerisms. It's the, there are bone structure differences. That's the thing. But, it's possible there's, certain things in the chemicals and all that stuff in the food supply. You have to be, once you know what to look for, you can kind of spot them. And a lot of people say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And there's certain patterns to look for. And this is what I used to focus on in my videos is, I was pretty serious in the early days, especially because it was kind of a new topic that people didn't really know about. And that's met with a lot of cognitive dissonance because no one's going to believe it at first, right? So I did a lot of focusing just on the bone structure in my videos. And the videos is a good medium to do that because you can look at photos. And, back when we were growing up, we didn't have the internet. We couldn't look at photos of people. We didn't really pay close attention to what we were seeing. Someone like Raquel Welch, for example, considered to be one of the most beautiful women or beautiful actresses, turns out to be a dude. Like no one really wants, or Marilyn Monroe, no one really wants to know that or admit that, and people are just going to think you're crazy.
Monroe. What? Really?
Of course. That's a pretty obvious one, actually. Yeah. You probably haven't seen my old videos.
No, I haven't seen. Well, I haven't seen. No. Certainly not on Marilyn Monroe. But I've never actually, looked at Marilyn.
As something kind of like that. Adam's apple. That's always a good look at. Sandra Bullock. Start. For newcomers out there, start with Sandra Bullock, who admitted to working first job. Admitted on a talk show, first job working at a drag show. Now, what kind of people work at a drag show? Drag queens work at a drag show. Biological women don't work at a drag show. So Sandra Bullock admitted to starting out working at a drag show. Has a Adam's apple, even larger than mine. Played a transvestites in the movies. I forget the name of them now, but
well, I mean, she's not very feminine
because it's a dude. That's and kind of does a lot of comedy as well, and that's probably why he's funny because it's a drag queen. Drag queens are kind of funny sometimes. There's a reason all the comedians. At some point in their, all the so-called male comedians or actors, at some point they do cross-dress as well. So even if there are real biological men out there, at some point in their career they have to cross-dress on camera in public. You can look up any actor, even like Gene Hackman or anybody. Now I'm not sure about Clint Eastwood if he ever's been found in drag, but you can look almost anybody. Mick Jagger, lots of photos of Mick Jagger in drag. All the rock stars, they all kind of dress effeminately anyway, right? So, the gender bending is, and here's the thing, is that Lady Gaga, right? Lady Gaga, man. But it's like, these people are very popular as well. So there's something about like if I were working at a record company, for example, what I would do, and this is what Clive Davies does, or is it Clive Davis or Clive Davies? He was the head of Arista Records. He had lots of these transvestite singers who were major superstars. And I think what he figured out is all you do is go out and get yourself a transvestite who can sing well, and they will become superstars. Like Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, all these kind of people. Streisand. And a lot of them are eunuchs, so they cut off their testicles, and that gives them a higher voice. And this is called a castrato, which the Catholic Church had castrato singers for hundreds of years. You know, they have the male lung power, but kind of it's a contralto voice, which is the lowest female vocal range and the highest male vocal range. So it's in that sweet spot. Like Whitney Houston, I think, is a very good singer and is probably a castrato singer. Cut the balls off. Put a little makeup, cut the balls off, put some makeup on them, put them on stage. Millions of dollars right there. It's famous? It's bioengineering.
Who's famous and is not in this category?
That's a good question. That in many ways, that's a harder question to answer because, someone like Roseanne Barr, maybe you think, well, maybe that's a real woman, But I'm always a bit hesitant. I'm always like, well, it's either a real woman or she's just fooling me, And it is possible to be fooled, They can, because, I always thought the woman who played the secretary on The Office, there probably are some real females that you'll see like on some TV show or in a movie. Some people think it's all of them all the time, everywhere. And, for me, it's like well over 90%, but maybe it's higher than that. It could be 99%. But it's certainly the ones, I would say it's pretty rare to find like a superstar who's not one of them. Like an A or even a B or C list actress. It's just part of the deal, It's like that's the club. And in a way, you could think about it many ways. It's like why it's wrong. And on the practical sense, it's like if some woman, a biological female, wants to go become an actress, she doesn't have much chance because she doesn't qualify, right? You can't be a real woman and get the job, So in that sense, it's possibly illegal what they're doing if you think about it, and it's deceptive and kind of creepy. So, but maybe the thing is, think about like the Democrats or people on the left, liberals. If they found out that Miley Cyrus was a man or Taylor Swift, they really wouldn't care. I don't think. A lot of people wouldn't care. A lot of people would like it. They'd embrace it. Because it gets down to the, the depravity of man and the human condition, I mean, I could guarantee you if Taylor Swift's fans found out that it was actually a man, I'd say at least half of them would accept it, probably more than that. It's idolatry.
Yeah, I know. Say something like, love the person.
Yeah. It's, who cares who cares what she is? She's awesome. She's great. It's idolatry on the part of the masses, right? On the part of the fans of these people, it's the idolatry. They worship Taylor Swift as a god. I mean, I went through that stage as well, right? When I was younger, I worshiped the rock stars, and we all go through, especially younger people. We kind of idolize certain people, whether it's athletes or politicians. Oh. You're going to make me puke. Yeah, Katy Perry is another one. Yeah, I mean, there's all of them. And they're all, it's all, they're kind of shoved down our throats, because I don't even listen to that kind of music, right? So I really shouldn't even know who they are, but yet I do. And why is that? Because they're just so famous and they're just pumped out there in the mass media. You know, and thankfully I've really probably only heard like one Taylor Swift song in my entire life, which is I'm pretty fortunate that way. But but yet you read about Taylor Swift every day in the news, right? And it's like, I don't care, I don't want to know, but yet everyone knows. Everyone's got to see. You could just open up any website, any news website, you're going to see 5 transvestites right there on the screen. You know, Google News, whatever news site you look at, Fox News, it doesn't matter. Half the Fox newscasters are transvestites, you know. So it's just, you know, they're everywhere. It's like, it'd be like saying, oh, Jews run the media and they're all circumcised. Well, the transvestites run the media and they're all transvestites.
What do you make of Michael Jackson, who was born a black man and died a white woman?
Yeah, I suspect. I mean, my guess is he was castrated, to be honest, because his voice never changed. Well, he was talented. I would say, you know, it's not like I listened to Jackson much, but he was. I would say he was talented. He could do that moonwalk, you know. He had some pretty good songs. He was idolized as a god, you know, and Prince as well, right? Prince from my hometown, actually. But
dude, Billie Jean is one of the greatest songs ever written, though.
It's got a good groove, yeah. You know, many of the early, you know, going back thousands of years, the singers were transvestite singers. But it was all done for religious reasons, though. That's the thing, is there's almost no such thing as secular music, because there is always kind of this underlying religious angle, even in secular music. Like, for example, The Who. A lot of The Who's songs are about the cult that Pete Townsend is in. He's in a cult, this bizarre cult, and all the lyrics are about his cult. And we don't really notice it. And The Who, you know, they rock, right? Great songs, and it sounds great. And we don't really sit there pondering the meaning of the lyrics that much, but yet a lot of the lyrics in all these rock bands and stuff, they're very occult based, or the artwork on the album covers and stuff like that. So it is a bit of a risky scenario when we kind of enter into that world. We don't quite know what we're going to get. You know what I mean? We don't think it's religious music, but it actually is. It's their religious music. I like old gospel music, you know. So it just depends, you know, but that's just me. I mean, some people listen to religious music on purpose, you know, and but they know what they're going to get, and they know what the religion is. That, you know, if you listen to Christian music, you know what it's supposed to be, which, and again, that might not be what it's claimed to be either. But there's a lot of Egyptian symbolism. To be honest, it's like sometimes I'll start out listening to music when I'm driving, and it's usually something like maybe that, because I grew up listening to a lot of rock music and stuff, but I think I listened to it so much that I don't really need to listen to it anymore. Like, I never need to listen to Led Zeppelin again, because I have it all memorized, you know what I mean? Like, I know how to play it all. There's nothing new there for me. So I'll listen to something new that I've never heard before. But usually what happens is I'm driving, and say I'm driving for like an hour, right? And after about 3 songs, I'll get bored, and I'll put on like a course or an audiobook or something like that. Seriously, like, I'm like, you know, I could be learning something, but instead of so I don't even listen to much music anymore at all. But if I do listen to music, it'll be something that I've never heard before, something that I'm just curious about. What is this? You know, usually from the past, you know, just something I've heard about but never actually listened to. Because I've heard everything I've heard before. I've heard it and I know what it is, and there's no need to listen to it again. But so usually these days, and it sounds really boring, but I'm listening to audiobooks or courses or whatever. I'm not even listening to music anymore. And that's not even a decision. It's just more like, it's just what I want to do. And I just need to maximize my time. So that hour-long drive like now becomes productive, you know?
So do you think Robert Plant was a woman?
I don't know. I mean, Mick Jagger, I kind of do, yeah. Mick Jagger, although, you know, so scrawny and small, low body fat, but he does look very effeminate. He's got these big feminine lips, and he's very androgynous. A lot of people have said, just looking at the way people perceive Mick Jagger, the word androgynous appears a lot when people describe a lot of these rock stars, and including Mick Jagger. A lot of photos of him in drag, even on the album. Remember that album, Some Girls, which I got. That was one of the first albums I ever got. I was about like 10 years old, which is a great album actually. But the whole band is dressed in drag on the cover. And so some theories that people have are that, the simple theory that I like to keep things simple, but it's like, okay, so they're men dressed up like women, so they are practicing ritual androgyny, right? They're in this occult, they're doing this occult ritual, which is true, right? So if they're men, they're still doing the occult rituals by dressing in drag. But if they're women, then they're dressing in drag because that's who they really are. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So either way, you know, because it gets a little dicey when you start saying Robert Plant's a woman. That's where people's cognitive dissonance goes really high, and then you got to like prove. Like, I don't know how to prove that. I would say it's possible. Jimmy Page, my idol growing up, my guitar idol, which is why I have the Sunburst Les Paul. I've had that thing for 30 years.
Great guitarist.
Yeah, very creative, very heavily into the occult, as we know now. Which back then,
yeah, I mean, what doesn't he own Aleister Crowley's home?
He used to, yeah. He was in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Something like that, you know. He seems like a nice guy, right? I mean, I don't like saying bad things about people, and that's not what I'm about. But it's, you know, the truth is, but he does seem quite effeminate, though, as well, if you think about it. You know what I mean? Like, kind of strangely effeminate. Kind of strange. A lot of these celebrity men are kind of strange. They're different than regular people. You know what I mean? He's a bit effeminate.
I mean, have you seen what Paul McCartney looks like? He looks like a retired primary school teacher who's lesbian.
Yeah, he looks like my aunt, or you know. So yeah, that's the thing, is like, you know, for me personally, the cognitive dissonance is greater on the male rock stars because I idolized them, you know. And I play music and stuff, right? So it's like the last thing I want to do is admit Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or a bunch of women, or, you know, Ozzy, or, you know, Sebastian Bach. I mean, they're strange people. They seem to be somehow bioengineered. And I do have a theory about, like, say, for example, a singer like Brian Johnson from AC/DC, right? He has that unique vocal sound, that very raspy. Rod Stewart kind of has it in a slightly different way. But my theory is that raspy sound that most singers don't have. I mean, you work with you play with singers. It's probably, whenever I've played AC/DC, usually we got to get a female singer. Or a lot of these bands, a lot of these rock songs, a male singer it's pretty hard to find a male singer who can really sing Guns N' Roses or AC/DC or these raspy, and they sing so high, you know. So as a musician too, that's another thing I can do, is look at the vocals and look at the you know, the range of notes that they're able to sing. The guy from Yes, for example, the guy from Yes who talks like this. Come on, something's going on. Something is going on. Either a castrated man or a woman. I mean, something strange, and also very heavily into the occult and a New Ager and all this stuff. And these guys hear that, they hear the music. They don't write the music. They hear it.
Yeah, that dude from Placebo also.
Yeah. Nancy Boy. Yeah. That guy, I discovered them just a few years ago. And it's funny because
actually a great band.
Yeah, I like that song. I like the sound of some of the music. The sound of it is pretty cool. But the guy, he's just a total androgyny. And that was kind of his whole image, right? Just the shock factor of like, I'm just going to be a dude dressed in drag, and you don't know if I'm a man or a woman, and that's his whole thing, and we still don't know. But I saw like the video for that a few years ago. And then there was this British band that was never popular in the U.S., so I'd never heard of them. And I thought it was a chick singer. I seriously thought it was a woman singer. And then I saw a recent live show, and the dude had like a mustache. And I thought, oh, they got a different singer. They got a male singer now. But they used to have a female singer, but it was the same person.
So what about
Kurt Cobain. Yeah, I mean, they seems like a dude, but yet doesn't mean it's a dude. That's the problem with the FTMs, man.
Yeah, but I don't remember him dressing up as a woman.
They did. Oh, they did. He's dressed in drag.
Oh, did they?
In one of his music videos, he actually gave birth to a baby. dude, no, like that's my world. It's like when you do a deep dive on the subject, you come across stuff most people don't come across. Nirvana, and he dressed in a dress a lot on stage.
Yes, but actually, you are right. So, I mean, that is part of the whole punk vibe.
And I know that Dave Grohl as well.
Fat Mike from NoFX often dresses up as a woman.
Yeah, they're practicing ritual androgyny. It's not a joke.
And he's Jewish.
Oh, well, there you go. Kabbalah. It's their religion, right in our face, and people are going there. Yeah. It's their religion, man. It's their secret sauce. It's the magic and sorcery and pharmakia. So my theory with the raspy voice is that if they're women, say like for example, if Axl Rose is a woman, why does he have such a strange voice? It's because he's a woman taking testosterone. The vocal cords get a little thicker and a little looser, and they flap around in the throat. Just like if you detune your guitar strings, you know what I mean? They're gonna buzz on the fretboard. So you get that raspy buzz, but yet somehow they also retain the very high range as well. So I think the FTM singer has that raspy sound. So they're basically creating bioengineered singers. And some of the greatest, vocalists of all time in the opera world as well have been castratos. And the castratos still exist. A lot of the most famous female singers are castratos, I believe, because they have this powerful voice with like Mariah Carey would be the perfect example. What's
the solution though? I mean, what should we legitimize it by listening to their music? Because a lot of the music is excellent.
Well, I know what happened for me is I kind of lost interest in it naturally. It's not like I avoided intentionally, like, oh, that's satanic. I'm going to get defiled if I listen to it. Nothing like that. But I just kind of got interested in other things, I think. Because I used to be heavily into music, you know what I mean? But it just doesn't give me that fix or that. I mean, I used to drink a lot. I used to do all kinds of stuff I don't do anymore. But it's like... it doesn't give me that satisfaction it used to. It doesn't work for me like it used to, you know what I mean? I've outgrown a lot of it. So I think it's just a personal journey that everyone's on, a different path maybe, or a different stage. So, there's nothing I can do to stop anyone else from doing anything, including becoming a transvestite or whatever, I can't... stop this whole phenomenon from happening. Like that is a great question though. Like, what can we do about it? Well, I think it's just the fallen condition of mankind. We're kind of a pathetic, in many ways we're pathetic, but in many ways we're we're great as well too. You know what I mean? Like there's a mix of we're kind of complex creatures if you think about it, human beings, right? Even within myself or just, you know, people, you know, it's like, yeah, there's a mix of good and bad, you know. We're capable of doing good things and being kind and helping people, but we're also capable of stealing things and harming others. And so, but there's just a lot of strange things going on in this world that, you know, like 9/11, right? It's, you know, for me, I think it's better to know about the deceptions. Otherwise, we'll just be deceived and led to the slaughter, you know, even if we're still, maybe, you know, maybe I'll be executed someday or something, but at least I'll know what's going on. You know, at least I'll know why I'm getting executed, and instead of lining up and going to the drugstore and getting executed without realizing it, you know.
Okay. Looking at the time, Mr. E, how can I follow you?
Mainly posting things on YouTube. The channel is called Mr. E TV, MRE TV on YouTube. I have a BitChute channel that I haven't really been using lately. I just got kind of sick of it, and they've been doing some censorship and stuff. I'm doing a lot of Bible study kind of stuff lately, but yeah, that's my kind of my home base right now. Somehow managed to figure out how not to get shut down on YouTube right now. There's an Odyssey channel, and I've made a lot of videos over the last 10 years, and I'm not sure that all of them are even available anywhere, but I'd like to, you know, maybe someday try to figure out how to make all of them available somehow. The problem is this is a heavily censored topic, you know. They don't, and there's a lot of money involved in it, right? Hollywood doesn't want people to stop watching their movies, you know, but I think people have a right to know at least what's going on.